This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to a special edition here in the lab room on the Louie T Network, the NFL Rumor Mill. And this is something that I like to do once we get into the offseason. A lot of rumors swirling around. I like to do this around draft time as well because you start to hear all these different rumors. And you know the routine. I tell you this every year. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, yours truly, Louie T. So rumors are rumors for a reason. There's not always validity to them, but it's always great fodder to talk about. So you try to comb through all of the rumors and try to pick out the ones that make sense and dissect them and see if there's any validity to them. And so a lot has transpired this week, and I felt compelled to do a video. Plus, you guys hit me up. A number of you was like, hey, man, look, I'm going through a little bit of a drought here. I need something, man. And so I got you. And I'm enjoying this time off. I'm not going to lie to you. When you do as much as I do throughout the course of the regular season, you get burnt out a little bit. And this was a nice little kind of moment, kind of just to kick off my shoes and relax my feet. And, kind of just party on down to my own little beat off to the side. And now as we get towards the Super Bowl and then we get into the offseason and the draft, things will start to pick back up and rev back up. And I don't mind. You just need to recharge the battery every now and again. And I'm sorry for being late. I'm sorry for being tardy. Sometimes I can be like that sometimes where I set a deadline knowing damn well I'm not going to make it. I knew I was going to the gym, man. I knew I had no shot at making it at 8:30, but I still put it at 8:30 anyway. I should have put it at 9, which is what I initially wanted to do. And I said, man, I can make 8:30, man. And it was one of those, hey, man, I beat it in 5 minutes. 5 hours later, I beat it in 5 minutes. Go ahead, ride with it. I'm so fly with it. Look how I did it. Y'all know how I do it, man. I be bullshitting, but I finally arrived with it. I'm here. So let's jump into the rumor mill. And there are a number of topics I want to talk about, but we're first going to start with the Raiders and their potential relocation to Las Vegas. Now, nothing's etched in stone. It seems like we've got a lot of relocating going on of late. Last year, the Rams moved from St. Louis to L.A. That didn't work out so well in year one. Now you've got the Chargers making that same leap from San Diego to L.A. So now two teams in Los Angeles. That happened last week, and we saw the backlash from the logo and the move and all that. And I'm even hearing as early as today that there's already backlash from owners that didn't like the move and feel like the Chargers belong in San Diego. So that story is not done. It's long from over. We'll see what happens there. But as of right now, the Chargers have made their leap from San Diego to Los Angeles. And now, this has kind of been in the works for a while, and we knew about Mark Davis's affinity for Las Vegas and wanting to uproot the Raiders from Oakland to Las Vegas. It's been a long, drawn-out process, a lot of dotting of the I's, crossing of the T's, but now we're starting to get serious. Paperwork has been filed, and that happened 2 days ago, and so now it's all up to the league, the owners, and what may have you to vote. 2/3 of the NFL's owners need to be on the same page with Mark Davis and side with him that Vegas is the right move, not only for the Raiders organization, but for the entire National Football League. Vegas is not the most sanitary of locations for a sports entity and a sports organization. A lot of betting and things go on there. And so those two things generally don't mix in the world of sports. Obviously, people bet on sports. It's a part of our society. But you usually try to distance any organization away from betting. Of course, we know about the whole Pete Rose bet on baseball scandal and things of that nature. Look, I don't know how this is being perceived nor received in NFL circles. However, Mark Davis must have had some sort of intel and some sort of indication that, hey, if I go ahead and file the paperwork, that this thing will probably pass through. So we'll keep a watchful, very close eye on this, especially Raiders fans, because again, a lot of Raiders fans have resisted change. There's been a lot of pushback from the Raiders fan base, not wanting to uproot the franchise yet again. Remember, this is a franchise that started in Oakland, went to L.A., went back to Oakland, L.A. They've been back and forth on a number of occasions. They're just tired of moving. Oakland has been home for them for a while now. They would like to keep them there. So we'll see what happens with this vote. But if they get 2/3 of the votes, and with them being, 32 franchises, 2/3 would probably be somewhere in that 20 range. I would assume half is 16. 24, I'm thinking, is 3/4. So you're looking at that 20 range. 2/3 will probably be in that 20 range or so. So 20 teams need to side with Mark Davis on this one. We'll see if that, in fact, happens. Can't wait to get to some of your comments to see how you guys feel about the potential move of the Raiders. They'll be the Vegas Raiders at that point, I'm assuming. And that will be a little bit of a change. And we'll see if the Raiders can start anew, if that is, in fact, the direction that they decide to go in and the league agrees that they should go in. That's a really fascinating and interesting dynamic. Like I said, this has been building for a while. This isn't new news. This isn't something that happened overnight. We've seen this one coming for a while, and now it's starting to really come to fruition, and the ball is starting to get rolling on that one. The next order of business that I want to talk about is something that's gaining a lot of traction, and I think it's basically done. I think it's etched in stone at this point. It's just a matter of when does this become final, and a lot of that has to do with the success of the team that he's currently helping coach, and how many guys is he going to bring with him? How much power is he going to have? So forth and so forth. I'm talking about Kyle Shanahan. The assumption, and this is why you don't make assumptions, is why I hate making assumptions, because you know what they do. They make an ass out of you and me. And we all made assumptions. Oh, this 49ers job is horrible. Nobody's going to want to take it. And I kind of got a lot of insight as to why this was a job that a lot of guys were considering. And I'm going to talk about this here in a second. But let's talk about Kyle Shanahan first. You feel like he can get just about any job. Just like Josh McRoberts. I felt like Josh McRoberts and Kyle Shanahan were 1A and 1B in terms of coaching candidate hires. I felt like those guys, those were the two guys that I looked at, I pinpointed and said, they can get any job that they want. So the necessity to feel like I got to go out here and Josh McDaniels has already come out and said, hey, I got my eye on that Detroit job next year. And I got my job on that Indy. I got my eye on that Indy job as well. Like, he's already pinpointing locations where they've got quarterbacks in place that he feels like, hey, if they have a rough season, that coach could be out. You never, in the coaching fraternity, it is taboo to talk about anybody's job. And I don't think he actually said it. Someone close to him with intimate knowledge of how he feels might have leaked that information. In any event, it's taboo to talk about another man's job while it's already being occupied. So generally that doesn't happen. But in the case of McDaniels, he's already said, look, I would love to have that Detroit job or that Indy job. I got my eye on both of them. Like, he is basically doing what Sean Payton did once upon a time. Remember, Sean Payton had a chance to be the Oakland Raiders coach once upon a time, and his mentor, Bill Parcells, told him, don't take that job. That's a dead-end job. You'll be fired in 2 or 3 years from now. Don't take that job. Luckily enough for him, he listened to his mentor, waited, and because he was a hot assistant, he knew he was going to get something worth having. He got the Saints job, won a Super Bowl. So I felt like McDaniels, I keep calling him McDaniels, and Kyle Shanahan were in the same boat. They could do pretty much whatever they wanted. They could wait. They could take a job if they felt like it was the right situation for them. I didn't feel like the 49ers job was the right situation for those types of guys, knowing you're going to get a job. But here's the difference. Why the 49ers job is all of a sudden so appealing. It's because of the amount of control that coach is going to get. The GM is gone. You're coming in. Not only are you going to get to help with the GM search, but you're also going to help pick the groceries. You're going to have a lot of input and say. This 49ers organization is like a blank canvas at this point. Okay? There's no painting there. It's just a blank canvas. There's a bunch of paint, bunch of brushes, everything you could ask for, have at it. And so that's very appealing to a coach, especially a young coach, a guy that's going to get his first opportunity. You tell me, hey, you get to do whatever you want, basically. Pick your GM, pick your players, pick your quarterback. There's nothing there that's being forced upon the guy that takes the 49er job. Now, look, there's a lot of work to be done, and you're not going to walk into San Francisco and win immediately. I can assure you of this. But if you're willing to put in the time, effort, and the necessary resources, you can turn around the 49ers job. If you've got the right connections, you can bring the right guys in, and you can do a good job of drafting and getting some skilled players in there. You don't have a quarterback that's tied to you. There's no anvil. There's no Blake Bortles that you got to try to fix. There's no potential disaster waiting to happen in like a Jared Goff. And I'm not sold on Goff being good or bad. I'm just saying there's not a young quarterback that you have to work with because the organization spent a ton of resources to get that guy. It's a blank canvas. There's no quarterback. There's no GM. Right now, there's no head coach. So if you are presumably the guy that they're after, they're going to give you as much control as you like. So you get to come in. And if Shanahan comes in and says, hey, I want my dad to have a vice president of order of operations job, his dad will probably be working in the front office, helping him pick players. If he says, all right, I want this GM right here, and he handpicks a guy, that guy's probably going to come on board. And if he says, I want that player, and that player, let's just say the Redskins want to keep BSing with Kirk Cousins. He says, hey, I want to go get Kirk Cousins. He can go get Kirk Cousins, and just like that, he's built the organization the way that he wants, in his image, in his model, in his frame of mind and way of thinking. It's done. And so that's why this 49ers job has all of a sudden become so appealing to coaches like a Kyle Shanahan. So right now it seems like this job is basically done. Because this is the thing. This is why you have to think that he's going to take this job. If he wasn't going to take this job, he would have just done the same thing that Josh McDaniels did, which is say, hey, I'm not interested. Take his name out of the running and let them move on with their business. You wouldn't hold the team up knowing that they're waiting on you to interview and waiting on you to give them the nay or the yay, and knowing that there's a process that has to be gone through. You're not going to hold the team up, and they know that. So he would have told them, no, I'm not interested, and they would have had to move on to another candidate. By them just waiting here, he's already told them basically, I'm going to take the job once the Falcons season is over. That could be as early as Sunday, or it could be February 7th when they win the Super Bowl. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Bottom line is, Kyle Shanahan is one of the brightest offensive minds in the game right now. I feel the same way about Kyle Shanahan as I do Sean McVay. Young, very bright, very, very cerebral in his ability to put together an offensive game plan and wear defenses out. And I think him more so than McVay. I think Shanahan is a lot more advanced than McVay is because I love his dedication to the run. McVay he wants to stay balanced, but he's more geared towards throwing the football, whereas Kyle Shanahan, everything, he gets it from his dad, is based around being able to run the football effectively. If you can run it the way that they run it, and they have run it in Denver, they ran it in Houston under Kyle, have run it in Washington when they won the division in 2012 with Robert Griffin III, or now in Atlanta, you're going to have success with the play action fake and being able to throw the football. It's going to open everything up for you. That's his mentality and philosophy, and it's worked everywhere Kyle Shanahan has been. And I think he's a tremendous play caller. Again, one of the best offensive minds in all of football. And if he goes to San Francisco and he's able to get the right pieces in place, which I think is going to be a lot harder and a lot less easier said than done. But if he's able to do that along with a very good GM, maybe they could turn some things around in San Francisco. We shall see. But I think right now, if I had to guess, I'd say 90% that deal is done. Kyle Shanahan is going to be the next head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Next order of business, I want to talk about something that I found really, really interesting, really fascinating. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this or not, but the NFL is thinking about doing this whole spring development league. They're going to invite a bunch of older players to come out, sort of like the little veteran tryout that they had 2 years ago that they scrapped last year. They're bringing that back. It's sort of a developmental league, but that's not what I want to talk about. There's another developmental league out on the West Coast, and I forget what they're calling it. It's something like the California Pro League or something like that. They're calling it, and it's not affiliated in any way with the NFL. But go do your research on this. This is really fascinating. So what this is it's a bunch of guys investing into a league that is preparing. It's almost like a farm system for the NFL. Adam Schefter is in on this venture. Mike Pereira, a guy that you've seen, used to be the head of officiating for the NFL, does the official calls on Fox and does a great job of breaking down the calls and telling you whether it's going to stand or be overturned. He's in on this venture. There are a number of guys, high-profile guys that you know of that are in on this venture. And what it is you have to be in that frame that framework of you're out of high school, and you have to be in that. You can't be any more than 4 years removed from high school to play in this league. So you can come right out of high school, decide not to go to college, and come play in this league as an alternative to college football. Now, obviously, college is king. Guys are going to want to go to college still because there's a free education in it, and there's the ability to really be marketed, become a household name. It's amazing that we talk always about how college is taking away from collegiate athletes, and to a certain extent they are. They are using these guys and making a hell of a lot of money off of them. But in the same breath, some of these players walk away not only with an education, but more importantly, they walk away with a brand, because a guy like Leonard Fournette isn't a household name, or isn't a brand, or isn't a perceived top 5 pick if he didn't play at LSU and we didn't get to see him for 3 years playing and get to build up all this hype and build his brand for him moving on to the next level. Same thing could be said for a Deshaun Watson or Jabril Peppers or any of these guys, Jonathan Allen, any of these guys that we perceive to be first round picks, top 20 picks, whatever the case may be. They've built a brand in college, okay? And so they're going to make money off of the brand that they've built in college. But that being said, college is not for everyone. There are a lot of guys that have to take the JUCO route, a lot of guys that have to go to this school, transfer. There's a lot of guys that don't want to go to school, period. They don't even like school. They're just going to play football, and they're just going through the motions. And that scholarship could go to somebody that actually wants to go to school, get an education, and play, and be a student athlete. So the thought process here with this league is that you're going to prepare guys to play in the National Football League. They're going to run a pro style. Let me read you this excerpt from this article that I find fascinating. Let's take a look at this, because I think that this league has a chance. Now, you don't want to put anybody up against college football, because college football, like I said, after the NFL, college football is king. So it's not like these guys are looking like the USFL was once upon a time, trying to put the NFL out of business, or at least going up against the NFL. They're just trying to give guys another outlet, and this is fascinating. Let's take a look at this. Let me read this to you. So the plan, and this is the plan, and listen to this, because I think the what's in the writing, what's in these details, I think really speaks to where we're going and how this can be beneficial, not only for the league, but also for some players that find themselves in a little bit of a pinch. I might need some money financially. You're not going to get paid playing college football. Maybe this is the avenue you need to take. Maybe you got a daughter at home and your family's not doing well back at the crib, and you need to be able to send them some money. Here's an opportunity for you to do that. Maybe you never had any intentions of really playing college football. You just wanted to play football, but you didn't want to go to school and all the things that come with it. The plan It says 4 teams based in Southern California, each playing an 8-game schedule on Sundays during the sports dead zone, which is from July to August. So that's an entertaining portion of the season where we don't have anything. There's no football. There's no basketball. We have nothing. So this is the perfect time. All it is baseball. Who gives a damn, right? So July through August, which sets us up for some preseason football, and college football is about to return. It's a perfect window of opportunity there. Roughly 50 players per team, making an average, look at this, average salary and benefits package of $50,000 a year. So think about that. You're coming out of high school, all right? You don't want to play college football. Your grades were horrible in high school. You only went to high school because you wanted to play college football. Let's just go with that premise, okay? And this isn't going to be everyone. It just might be a guy in there that made great grades but said, you know what? I need that $50,000 right now. I'm hurting. I need this money. It'd be nice to get a college education, but I need the money right now. And I think playing in the NFL might be my future. So here's an opportunity for me to do that and prepare for that. So $50,000 a year, which they'd be free to supplement with endorsements. So you can, unlike college football where you can't make any money off of your being while in college football, you can make money here and be endorsed. So that's also a big kicker for me as well. Rules will tweak to enhance safety and give NFL scouts matchups they want to see. So you're putting some good tape on display for the scouts so they can see what's going on and see how well you're developing, just like they would if you were at the collegiate level. So they're getting a comparable look at some guys at a different level. And again, I think there's still going to be a really solid level of competition. It's not going to be as easy as saying, okay, this guy plays in the SEC or this guy plays in the Big Ten, so I know what I'm getting. But you can still see athleticism. You can still see them in some one-on-one drills and situations. So I think that's also good. Here's another big point for me, which is why it's highlighted. Coaches with NFL experience. Okay, that is priceless because not always in college are you getting NFL experience. We see all these spread offenses. We see all of these guys that come from the high school ranks or have always coached in college that are just trying to win at the college level. You're not necessarily getting the training that you need that's going to translate to the next level at the college level, at the collegiate level. So you're going to get NFL coaches with experience who would teach pro-style schemes. That is, to me, one of the biggest parts of this article, especially for a guy. Let's say a guy's coming in as a quarterback and he played in a pro-style offense in high school, but he gets to college and he's running read option, and it's a tough situation. A lot of these guys run read option in high school. They run read option in college. They get to the NFL, they can't even call a play. I mean, we saw that with Johnny Manziel. The verbiage is even a hurdle for these guys, let alone getting under center and being comfortable making checks at the line of scrimmage and getting into the proper protections. They'll learn all of those things in this league. Also, it says, who would teach pro-style schemes in an immersive environment unbound by rules regarding classroom time. So another big key there is you don't have to worry about, well, hey, you got to go to class X amount of time and you only get 20 hours or X amount of hours to be in a practice field, to be in the film room. It's almost like you're an NFL player because this is your job. This is the only thing you have to do. So you get your ass in that film room and you study and you get out on the practice field and you take what you learned in the film room and you apply that to the practice field, and then hopefully it translates onto game days. So that's another big key there. Any 4 years or fewer removed from high school player would be eligible, including college underclassmen who entered the draft. So as long as you would have had college eligibility, as long as you would have been in that 4-year window out of high school, you're good. So you could have played 2 years of college football, been a redshirt freshman, and decided you wanted to go to a redshirt sophomore, decided you want to enter the NFL draft, all right? Boom. You don't get drafted and no one picks you up. You got 1 more year to show that you can play in this league, and you should be more advanced for having played college football and been through some NFL camps. You should be a little bit more advanced to be able to show off your skills, get the proper coaching that you need, and maybe you get another crack at the NFL again, and this time you make an NFL roster. I just love this idea. I think it's got some legs. I think it has some traction. Now it's all about seeing how many guys decide to take this opportunity versus the college route. And we'll see if this watered down college football. We'll see if this has any merit to it. Do guys just blow this opportunity off? Are they going to take it serious? Again, you're still dealing with 18, 19-year-olds. Okay, are they going to take this job seriously enough? $50,000 is great, but are these guys going to put in the work necessary? Because you're no longer in school. This is a job. And so this is something you have to do. Will they be mature enough to handle that? We'll see. But I love this idea. And that's something else I think is a little bit of food for thought for you guys as well. And I was really fascinated by that whole situation. And that's going to be out in California. That is really, really fascinating to me. Another topic of discussion, Zach Orr. Really, I hate when guys have to call it quits early in their career due to an injury. I'd much rather a guy be safe than sorry, continue to play and have something really bad happen. So this was a precautionary measure taken by Zach Orr. He was dealing with an injury that the Ravens classified as a shoulder injury or a neck injury, and it turned out to be like a crack in his shoulder. And it's something that just isn't something that he feels comfortable playing with, and nor should he. You know, once you get up in that shoulder neck region, and really it was a stinger, and we've seen guys have to basically call it quits. Kyshawn Jarrett, a very promising rookie for the Redskins 2 years ago, suffered a stinger in Week 17 versus the Cowboys. Career done just like that. So we've seen these stingers really wreck careers, and I think another one has been claimed here in Zachary Orr. And it's amazing because I was just having a conversation with my man, Andrew Kim, my man AK, and AK was like, look, man, I don't need Jabril Peppers. I got two of the best inside young linebackers in the game. We're set there. And the very next day after I had that talk with him, boom, Zach Orr is retiring. And so it leaves a huge void. And it's amazing because I don't think, if you're not a Ravens fan or you're not a fan of a team in that division, you probably don't know who Zach Orr is. But we're talking about one of the best young inside linebackers in this league. You know, I have a man crush on Ryan Shazier. I think he's the best young inside linebacker in the league. Zach Orr was not far behind on that list, folks. I mean, this is a guy that was second team All-Pro. Think about that for a second. I actually asked him once. I said, hey, bro, be honest with me. I said, be honest, straight up. You better than C.J. Mosley? He said, look, man, don't tell nobody I said this, but yeah, I am. I believed him. When he told me, I believed him. This guy was a baller, and he worked his way up, and it's just a shame. 24 years old, whole career ahead of him, and he was only going to get better. You know, he worked his ass off to get to where he was, and to see his career cut short due to injury. It's the name of the game, though. It's a physical, violent sport. The National Football League is. It's not for the faint of heart, and NFL stands for National Football League, also stands for not for long. So get yours while you can. That's why you will never hear me complain. When Brock Osweiler got paid, everybody, oh, Brock Osweiler got paid. I don't give a damn. Get your money when you can, because this league will chew your ass up and spit you out. Get your money while you can. And so it's unfortunate because he never got to get the bread that he deserved. It was coming to him, but he never fully got broken off like he was supposed to. And being an undrafted guy, that money was coming to him, and he never really got to collect it. That's a shame, but that's going to hurt the Ravens now. They got to go back to the drawing board, because defensively they were looking at their roster and they were saying, hey, look, we don't have that many holes to fill. You know, we need another corner, a starting caliber corner. You might want to take a look at the safety position. You got a couple of veterans there. You're probably going to need to address that at some point. Is this the year you have to address it? Maybe, maybe not. And then you probably need a pass rusher, edge rusher. But you look at the guys that you got in Judon, and you're hoping Kamale Correa turns into something. And all of a sudden you may have enough stuff there as well. So you just feel like we got enough stuff, right? Right? Maybe. But now you got a big glaring hole right in the middle of your defense now. C.J. Mosley and Zach Orr looked like they were going to make a hell of a tandem for years to come. Now it's just Mosley again, and now you have to fill that void in the defense. So we'll see if they attack that aggressively through free agency or if they just wait to see how they're going to address it in the draft. But that's a devastating blow to the Baltimore Ravens defense. That was one of the better defenses for much of the 2016 regular season. Another thing that I want to talk about, Adrian Peterson, AD, was recently on a show that I despise, one of the shows that I despise, ESPN's First Take with Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. And he talked about potentially being out in Minnesota, and we know that's a fact. He's probably not going to be back. That's not a surprise to anybody. He's making a ton of money. He's getting up there in age. He missed a lot of the season last year. The run game was horrible when he was in. When he was out, it didn't matter. So we could see the Vikings saying, you know what? We could use this money and allocate it to some other resources. Let's part ways with Adrian Peterson. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But what was a little noteworthy was him talking about teams that he wouldn't mind playing for. Now, this isn't the first time Adrian Peterson has went off and talked about teams he'd like to join. And remember, once upon a time, he's from Texas. He said he would love to play for the Cowboys. And that at one point when he came off of his suspension, a lot of people thought Vikings are going to cut him loose. Cowboys would be his first destination. That could be dangerous if he ended up behind that offensive line. But never came to fruition, and thankfully for most of us, it didn't, or else he probably would have rushed for 2,500 yards and broke Eric Dickerson's record by now. But with that being said, he mentioned 3 teams, and all of them feel like they're going in the right direction. Texans, Giants, and Bucks. With the Doug Martin situation in Tampa, maybe that's a logical landing destination for him. With the Giants, they got a bunch of young backs, but no one has stood up and said, hey, I'm that guy. Maybe it's Paul Perkins. He started to emerge towards the end of the season, but there's no clear-cut definitive guy in New York that could be a location for him. And then he said Houston, which is a bit of a head-scratcher. They got Lamar Miller. He played really well this season. They're paying him good money. I don't see them paying Adrian Peterson the type of money that it's going to take to get him on board. So that one was the one that I said, I don't see that happening. But the other 2, those are pretty fascinating and logical destinations for him. We'll see what happens. First of all, he's still under contract with the Vikings. He's not going anywhere as of right now, but things do change. And I think if they need money and they ask him and he says no, you'll probably see Adrian Peterson out on the free agent market. Remember, this guy's 31, if I'm not mistaken. It's not like he's a spring chicken, but his 31 and most other backs' 31, vastly different. Remember, he basically missed all of last season. He basically missed the whole season 3 years ago with the whole child abuse thing. Look, this guy still got fresh legs. He's still a beast. You put him behind a good enough offensive line, and there's still a lot left in the Adrian Peterson tank. Another topic of discussion, the Cleveland Browns are getting close to signing up and locking up linebacker Jamie Collins. When they made the trade with the Patriots, the assumption was they got to find a way to get a deal. No one wants to give up picks and get a rental and let the guy walk. So it's good to know that they're starting to really talk and get close. And it sounds like Jamie Collins, by all accounts, wants to be in Cleveland. Of course, they want him back. That's why they traded for him. And I don't think you guys know, much like I was just talking about with Zach Orr, if you're not watching the games closely, if you're not a fan of the Browns or that division per se, you may not know, but Christian Kirksey is a stud out there, okay? Christian Kirksey coupled with a guy like Jamie Collins could be troublesome with Greg Williams coming in and manning up that defense. They're about to start whooping some ass defensively in Cleveland. I don't know if the offense is going to get on track with Hugh and what they're going to do with the quarterback position. I can't speak to that. But with Greg Williams out there, that defense is going to be very aggressive. And Kirksey and Collins at the linebacker positions, I'm telling you right now, will be one of the better linebacking cores in all of the National Football League with those 2 guys playing at the level that they are capable of playing at. Kirksey is on the uptick. Collins has been a stud since he's walked into this league in New England. I think he's got a lot of good football left in him. That could be a really good linebacking core if they can get Jamie Collins to sign on the dotted line. We'll see if that happens before free agency gets underway. And lastly, before I get to your comments, Johnny Manziel, Jonathan Football, is back like cooked crack. And he wants back in the league. And he says, I'm clean, I'm ready to go, and all I need is an opportunity from one team. Do you believe Johnny Manziel? First of all, is he good enough to play in this league? I've seen flashes. Is he willing to put in the work necessary? Is he disciplined enough to kick his habits when success, let's say he gets an opportunity and he's successful. He gets an opportunity to play. He's successful. Does the success hit him, and does he go back to his partying habits and ways? Is he a reformed man, or is he just a guy looking for an opportunity because the water in the well is running dry and he needs some more money? I don't know what his motives are, but I do know one thing. He's looking for an opportunity. Do you think an NFL organization is going to give it to him? That's the question that I pose to you guys. And with that being said, let's jump into some of your comments. And again, I apologize for the tardiness of this video. I know some of you guys were here earlier. You might have left. And I apologize for that. Let's see. It's 9:40, so I got 20 minutes to answer as many questions, and then we're done. So let's get to your comments. Josh Berman says, as a Ravens fan, I feel bad for Zach Orr, not only as a player, but as a person. I have met this man. He's very passionate about this game. And if he made this decision, it will be because he had to. And obviously, he felt like it was on the best. It was for the best and on the best of his behalf. Making this decision meant that he was going to be able to preserve his future. You know, sometimes we forget these athletes put it on the line. We talk about all the money that they make, and everybody's all like, oh, they're making all this money, stop complaining. But these guys are putting their bodies on the line. You know, and you don't know what they go through, the painkillers that they take, and some of the things that they have to do just to get ready to play a game on Sunday. And then from week to week, these guys go through hell to prepare themselves. It's a physical, violent game. And each and every week, all we do is look at the injury report. This guy's questionable. We need him to play. The team is thinking the same thing. We need this guy to play. But these guys are warriors. They go through hell each and every single week. It's a physical game. And they get paid to play. But it's a physical game. They pay the price. And sometimes you have to make these types of decisions. Quality of life moving forward or risking it. And sometimes it's not worth it to risk it. It's just not. And so Zach Orr made the decision that, you know, doctors probably told him, look, you take another one of these hits, you could be paralyzed. Or you could not have the proper usage of the whole left side of your body. You take those things into consideration, and you start to sit down and you think and you talk to your family, and you realize, I can't take that risk. It's not worth it. So I feel bad for him too. You know, because like I said, it'd been one thing if this guy got himself a big contract, you know, big signing bonus, made $16 million, and then this happened. Okay. It sucks that he's not going to be able to play no more, but at least he was compensated. He never got that payday. It was around the corner for him. So that's frustrating. Vincent Coe says, do you think the door of championship for the Seahawks is closed ever since that Super Bowl loss against the Patriots? I don't know if it's necessarily closed, but that window of opportunity, which was a lot bigger a couple of years ago, it is very close to closed. I don't think it's necessarily closed. I think it's shrinking. Each and every year that passes, it's shrinking. But they still got Russell Wilson. He's still young. They still have that defense. They have parts that they need to retool in some areas. I think that secondary, it showed itself this year. Every year they get rid of a guy, whether it's Byron Maxwell or it's Browner. They get rid of these guys and they just replace them with someone else. Well, it finally caught up with them this year because their defense wasn't what it's been. And again, Earl Thomas, this is what you don't want. You never want to have either side of the football, you never want to be reliant upon one man alone. And obviously, taking the quarterback out of this discussion because a quarterback is so vital to the success, not only of an offense, but of a team. Taking the quarterback aside and putting him aside, you don't want to rely on any one guy on your football team. It just puts so much strain on your team if that guy isn't in the lineup. And you saw it with the Seahawks. When Earl Thomas isn't back there manning up that single high safety for them, they're not the same defense. They're just not. And it showed. And so that means they have some things that they need to fix on the defensive side of the football because they struggled in his absence. And when other guys went down at the cornerback position, they didn't have the depth that they've had in the past. And as you see the Walter Thurmans of the world leave, and like I said, the Byron Maxwells of the world and the Browners of the world age and leave, it's starting to take a toll on that defense. Offensively, they just never got into a rhythm. I think they haven't spent enough resources on the offensive line, and that showed in the playoff game versus the Falcons. It showed at numerous times throughout the season against Tampa Bay, so forth and so forth. I feel like the running game was hampered by a number of injuries. C.J. Prosise played well, but he was injured. You don't want to rely on a rookie and Alex Collins quite yet. And Thomas Rawls missed a good percentage of the season. So I think there's still opportunity for this Seahawks football team, but they've got some retooling to do. And the window is shrinking because guys like Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas are getting older. Richard Sherman getting older. These guys aren't spring chickens anymore. They're getting older. And so they need to win now. If they're going to win, they need to win now. Also, before we move on, Richard Sherman was injured this season. Played with an injury that was not addressed on the Seahawks injury report. He didn't show up despite having an MCL, I want to say it was an MCL sprain. They didn't put him on the injury report at all. And because of that, they potentially could be out of a second-round pick this season. And you know, good old Raj loves to smack teams with a draft penalty quickly, in a hurry. And he will not hesitate to take away a draft pick from the Seahawks if he deems it necessary. And if they get a second round, I just talked about them needing depth. That second-round pick, second-round picks are now the new first-round pick. What you do with your second-round pick is just as important as what you do with your first-round pick. To me, first and second-round picks are where you build your football team from a elite standpoint. You build your roster in the mid-rounds, 4th, 5th, 6th round, 3rd round. You get your core special teamers, guys that contribute, your versatile players. Those guys come in the mid-rounds. But if you're talking elite players, when you look around and you say, how many difference makers do I have? Generally speaking, you may get lucky and get a difference maker in free agency. It's rare, but the Giants did it last year. Olivier Vernon came in and was the difference maker. Damon Harrison may have been the biggest difference maker out of all of those guys. And Janoris Jenkins, if he wasn't the biggest, he was right behind Damon or tied with Damon Harrison as a huge difference maker. They went out and got difference makers. It's rare that you get that in free agency, but they were able to land not one, not two, but 3 of them last offseason. But like I said, that's rare. Most of the times you're going to get your difference makers in the draft, and most of the time they're going to come in the first 2 rounds of the draft. You look at the guys that are commanding franchise tag money and the guys that are getting these big lucrative deals. A lot of times, and yes, there are your 6th, your 5th round guys that are getting paid. That's great. Those are great stories. But for the most part, it's the 1st and the 2nd round guys that are doing the serious damage. The Von Millers of the world, they're not getting taken in the 4th round. Okay, every now and again, you'll get a Justin Houston that ends up being a 3rd round gem. But for every one of those, there's 3 first round guys or 4 first round guys or 3 second round guys. There's a Khalil Mack, a Jadeveon Clowney, a Von Miller for every one Justin Houston. A lot of times you got to go and get those guys in the 1st or the 2nd round. So can't afford to give up 2nd round pick. And the Seahawks might be in the danger of doing exactly that. Josh Berman says, nothing goes together more than crazy Raider fans and gambling. That is not a good mix. We're going to see. I don't know if those Raiders fans are going to follow them or not. We're going to see what happens. But there are a lot of guys that are not happy with a lot of fans. I don't want to say just guys. A lot of fans that are not happy with the potential move of the Raiders from Oakland to Vegas. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says, you should root against the Steelers because Stephen A. Smith is a Steelers fan that dissed the Redskins. I don't give a damn about Stephen A. Smith. That doesn't bother me one iota. So I care less what that man is a fan of at all. So it is what it is. The Black Owl B says, what it do, Lou? What's good with you, Black Owl B? He says, listen, if AD got to go, he got to go. 1, he deserves a ring. And 2, I'm done with his ass fumbling in playoff games. So, hashtag get him out of here. I hear you. Loud and clear. So, if he's going to go, if his time's up in Minnesota, it was a hell of a ride. But if it's his time to go, it's his time to go. We'll see what happens. He's named some destinations that would fit what he's trying to do at this point of his career. We'll see if those teams were listening, and we'll see if that does, in fact, come to fruition. DG Production says, hey, man, AR-12 can be as bad as he wants, but Packers have no run game, no defense, and 3 of their wide receivers are hurt. If anyone can overcome those odds, he can, but it's just too much. Or so you say it's too much. We will see. Aaron Rodgers is the man. And just like Julio Jones, 1, if not 2 of those receivers probably going to play. So maybe not Jordy Nelson, but I expect Geronimo Allison to play at least. Still going to have Cobb. Still going to have Adams. Still going to have Jeff Janis if need be. Still going to have a full complement of tight ends and Richard Rodgers and the X Factor, Jared Cook. More than enough weapons for him to carve that ass up. So, and trust me, elite quarterbacks like Brady and Breeze and Rodgers, those guys can win despite not having a run game. We basically saw Rodgers put the team on his back and beat Dallas without the assistance of the run game. They did have success, but they didn't run it a ton in that game. I'd be shocked if they ran it 15 times in that game. Shocked if they ran it a total of 15 times. I can only think of about 8 carries from Montgomery in that game and maybe another 2 for Aaron Ripkowski. Like, I don't think they ran it more than 13 times in that game. Rodgers is the man. If they're going to win, it's going to be on his right arm. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says, I'm glad you're back. I was bored all day. Hey, man. A number of y'all hit me up on Twitter like, yo, man, I need a fix, man. I'm hurting over here. Cats was scratching. Let me scratch that itch for you, man. I'm glad I could be of assistance to you guys. Your boss says you should get fined for being tardy. I'm sorry, man. I was extra late, too. I was really outrageous with it today. I apologize for that, man. I tried to sneak a gym run in there. I was out of line. I apologize for that. DG Production says, oh, and I'm glad to have you back. I was getting worried. Don't be worried, man. I'm not going anywhere. I just, like I said, when I get a chance to get a break, because they're few and far between, I take them. So this is an opportunity to get a little bit of a break, so I'm taking them, obviously. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says, if the Raiders move, I hope they don't get them ugly-ass logos like the Chargers did. They're not going to change their logos. That's part of their identity. One thing you don't have to worry about is the Raiders changing their identity. They may change locations, but they will always be the Raiders, and I don't see the one-eye bandit going anywhere. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says, Aaron Rodgers is the Michael Jordan of the NFL. From a skill set point, yes, he has not won like MJ. So that I don't know if I can go with that. But from a skill set standpoint, yeah, he's MJ in his prime. Josh Berman says, if the Raiders do leave, do you think a new team would move to Oakland? Probably not. I mean, there was an issue with Oakland getting the funds that they needed. So I would assume the next team might run into the same issue there. Teams leave locations for a reason. Like if there's a happy marriage between franchise and location, they're not going to uproot and move, okay? The Steelers aren't going anywhere. They're part of Pittsburgh, and there's no problem there. If they need a new stadium, they're going to get it built there. You know, Minnesota needed a new stadium. They got it built there. Like, if there's a good relationship between franchise and city, you're not going anywhere. The only time you leave is when there's an issue between the franchise and the city. So a new team moving to Oakland would mean that they would probably have some of the same issues that the Raiders faced when they were in Oakland. So I doubt it. I doubt that another team would take their place there. DG Production says, if Jordy plays, Keanu Neal about to be smoking on a Jordy pack. And and if Johnny comes back, he should come to Jayville as a backup. And I would hope Kyle stays focused on the task at hand, Super Bowl. He wants to win that ring, no doubt about it. I mean, he knows that job is going to be there. If they've already offered it to him, he knows that job is there for him to take once he's done. But he's trying to get this chip. Trust and believe. He knows how hard it is to win in this league. He's going to try to take this opportunity to get this chip. So he's focused. Trust me. Archangel says, well, Kyle Shanahan going into the sunset after helping Matty Ice to a Super Bowl win would make him look even greater as a coach going to San Francisco, Honolulu. Yeah, I talked about that with somebody on Twitter because he said, hey, if Kyle Shanahan helps the Falcons win the Super Bowl, is he going to want to leave? I'm like, you're damn right he's going to want to leave. He'll be the hottest he's ever been, and it'll give him more leverage. He can ask for more money. He can ask for more power and control. All of those things come with winning. And if he wins the Super Bowl, helps them win with that prolific offense, a lot of people are going to see him as one of the biggest reasons as to why the Falcons got it done. And that's going to up his bargaining chips as far as what he can ask for from the 49ers in terms of power, money, and control. So definitely that would be a big win for him if they can getting to the Super Bowl. They don't necessarily even have to win it. Just getting there would be a big coup for Kyle Shanahan. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 I should say. Says, did the Redskins find defensive coordinator? No. They're still dragging ass in that search. I don't like where it's heading, but there's still some options out there. We'll see if they pick one of the ones that I'm most comfortable with. Larry G's the best says, will the Steelers punish A.B.? If you're talking contract with him, he's going to get paid. You're talking about for the whole Facebook fiasco. They're going to punish him internally. Punishing him now, say, don't start the game or don't start the first quarter, will hurt the team. This isn't a situation where you punish the team. You need to punish the player. So that might be a fine that he has to pay. You know what I mean? Like, that might be something they'll handle internally. He's definitely going to be reprimanded. They're not going to let that slide because now you got Mike Tomlin apologizing for something he said behind closed doors that wasn't supposed to be meant for any ears outside of that locker room. That gave the Patriots extra fodder as if they need it. They don't need extra bulletin board material. They're the Patriots. And so, yes, he's going to be punished, but it's not going to be something that hurts the whole team. He's not going to be punished like the Panthers did with Cam Newton for the first series and turn it over. They're going to punish him internally. He's going to be fined for that. Reprimanded, slapped on the wrist in that kind of manner and fashion. DG Production says, this is why I love Julio. Julio! He ain't with all the distractions and extracurricular BS. He plays to win, hurt toe or not. He's not even on the injury report. You knew he was going to play. It's too big of a game. Now, I don't expect him to last the entire game, but he's going to play. He's going to give it. Do you know how hard it is to play with an injured toe? He's going to give it a go, but I do not expect him to last the entire game. But as the Falcons have shown this season, they're not just one man, and that's what makes them such a dangerous team. And I talked about this earlier in the show, that teams that don't heavily rely on one player are some of the best teams in the league. When we're talking outside of the quarterback position, mind you. If you rely heavily on one player that's not the quarterback, it's going to hurt when that player is not available. Or that guy is taken out of the game by a great game plan by the other team. So, obviously, they've figured out ways to circumvent a Julio Jones injury or when a team decides they're going to try to take him out of the game. Larry G's the best says, with quarterback, what quarterback has the best combine, Tom Brady or Money Manziel? Which one had the better combine? Manziel didn't even participate at the combine, and Tom Brady, he was like a gangly kid. If you watched the 30 for 30 with the Brady 6, he looked horrible at the combine. So I don't think either one of them had a great combine at all, to be honest with you. And like I said, Manziel didn't do anything at the combine, I don't think. I don't think he threw. I don't think he ran. I don't think he did anything at the combine. I think he just showed up, got measured, went through all the testing and the interviews. I don't think he did anything on the field per se. Smoker 713, my man Smoke, says Raiders should have applied to go to San Antonio. That's a really good market. I don't know if that's a football market, though. I know it's a great high school football factory out there in Texas, but is that a professional football market? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Only time will tell, because I think it's only a matter of time before San Antonio gets a team, I think. Remember, the Raiders were talking about going to San Antonio. They entertained that thought at one point, but I never took them serious to go to San Antonio. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says Tom Brady should prove that he can run faster than a turtle at the combine. Yeah, Tom Brady's slow as molasses, but when you can throw it the way that he does inside the pocket, you don't have to be an athlete. Martin Cordatai says, do we have an offensive or defensive coordinator in Washington yet? Neither. But like I told you, they're going to promote from within, offensive coordinator. I told you that on another video. And I told you Jay Gruden is probably going to call the plays, and that's what I expect. And I told you that on another video. And matter of fact, I told you all of this stuff on the Sean McVay video. And as far as defensive coordinator is concerned, they're still searching. They're still searching. And I just found out that they had said that they're going to do it. They're going to set it up where they're going to interview at least 6 or 7 candidates. So I think they've hit that mark now, and they've interviewed their minority candidate in Dennis Thurman. So now I think they've checked all the boxes. Now they can actually go in and hire someone. They made this a really long, drawn-out process. We'll see what it yields when it's done. Josh Berman says, I do think that fans should be called lab rats. What do you think? I like this. Lab rats. I don't know if everyone else will be appreciative of being called a rat. I don't know about that. Well, you'd have to ask the rest of the viewers in the chat discussion if they like that. I don't think that would go over too well with them, though. If it was me, I wouldn't be a big fan of it, but it doesn't matter to me, man. The Black Al Bundy says, you got to use your, hook those cats up, the ones that don't know if they're trying to get comments read. My man Andrew Kim says, love these new leagues, help players develop before the NFL. We have seen so many guys fall through the cracks and even fail, though they succeed in college. I think that Developmental League, and I might actually do a whole nother video on that because it's so fascinating to me. I am very intrigued by that whole dynamic, and I think it's a really great idea. I love the alternative to college because college isn't for everyone. You know, not every guy is a student athlete. Some guys just want to play football, and they're great at it. They may not be great in the classroom, but they're great at football, and they just want to do that. And I think this is a great opportunity for some guys, and you get paid. You know, it's a job, so it's almost like a guy coming out of high school and getting a trade. Instead of going to college, you get a trade. You go to trade school. You learn how to really hone your craft or your skill. You sharpen it up, and then you go out into the workforce. And I think that's what that would basically serve as, and I like that. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says AP is done. I don't think he's done yet. I think he's got another 2 years left in him. 2 good years behind a solid offensive line. I think he could still be a force in this league. John Niner 8 says Leonard Fournette next AP. Possibly. He's got the same frame and stature. I don't know if he's the same guy. AP was physical, violent. Fournette is that at times, but I don't know if he's consistently what AD was coming into the league. We'll see. The Black Al Bundy says, who was that Cowboys player you said career was done because of a stinger? That was a Redskin player. Kyshawn Jarrett was the one that injured himself versus the Cowboys in Week 17, and his career was done. He still can't really. He still doesn't have a fully functional left side of his body, or right side of his body. He can't shake a hand. he could barely he could really not even make a fist the last time I saw him. So it's not a game. These stingers, that's nerve damage, and sometimes those nerves don't regenerate. So serious business. Andrew Kim says it's amazing he played because he had a rare congenital neck injury where it wasn't detected until now. Doc's shocked he played. Those are scary. When you have any kind of congenital defect and it goes undetected, that's how guys die from like heart failure playing basketball, because they don't know that they've got an enlarged heart, went undetected this entire time, and their hearts are working a lot faster, and then they just collapse and nobody knows what the hell happened, and then they find out, oh, this guy had an enlarged heart. That stuff is scary. So I'm just glad that they figured it out now before it was too late and something really catastrophic happened. RG3 hashtag smoking that 3 hashtag 1000 says, nah, CJ Mosley is the middle linebacker in our division. Why I seen him play all the time. Okay, so he seems to think CJ Mosley is the best. Andrew Kim says, like 80% of the top of his neck wasn't developed. Doctor said he shouldn't play full contact sports. It was discovered through a full CAT scan, I think, and never did one before. That is scary. That is absolutely scary as hell. And this injury could have been a lot worse. So he should be really counting his blessings that, this is all that happened to him, and that it wasn't something that happened that was way worse than what occurred. Let's see. I'm going to try to get to a few more comments, and then we got to get out of here. It's already past 10. Andrew Kim says, his best fit is, to be honest, the Giants. I don't know if they have enough moolah, though. And at this point in his career, maybe he needs to reconsider what his asking price is. I know he's Adrian Peterson. I know he wants to be paid. But if you're looking to get paid and play for a winner, you might have to take less to do so. So that's something else he would have to take into consideration. The Giants or the Bucks are intriguing, because you look at the Bucks, you think they're a young team on the come up with Jameis Winston, with Mike Evans, with Cameron Brate at tight end. They get another good receiver in there. They've got a bunch of other receivers. I think if you get a good number 2, those other guys fall into good slots. Humphreys and what may have you, Shepard. I think those guys are solid guys that can get it done if you find a good number 2. That offensive line is young, and if they can come together and figure out, who goes where, that's not a bad look for them out in Tampa Bay. That defense is young. They're hungry. They're coming together. Tampa could be scary. So I think those are 2 interesting teams that he brought up. RG3 hashtag smoking the 3 hashtag 1000 says, Zach Orr is like that rookie that injured for the 49ers. His rookie season can't be remembered, the dude name, but he was also good. I don't know if you're talking about the linebacker, Borland. He didn't get injured. He just quit. He felt like, I don't know if this NFL thing is right for me because of the risk of injuries. But, yeah. The 49ers have taken some risk on guys. Lattimore comes to mind. He never really played. I don't think he ever played a snap in the league, though, did Marcus Lattimore. But he was a guy that had a number of injuries and just never panned out for him. But I think you might be talking about Chris Borland. But in any event, Black, and I see a couple of other people have commented Borland, so I think we were all thinking the same thing. Black Al Bundy says, AP picked a bunch of teams that ain't getting to no Super Bowl no time soon. AP ain't about winning no ring, it seems to me. I think he looks at those situations as teams that play defense, number one. All those teams play elite level defense, or have at some point. And number 2, have quarterbacks in place with the exception of the Texans. But if you can run the football and play defense, we've seen teams be able to get by with that. Play elite level defense, do enough offensively, and if you got a run game, you can do some things. So we saw the Vikings one year with Adrian Peterson, when he ran for 2,000 yards, make the playoffs with little to no help from the quarterback position, but an elite defense and a stellar running game. And I think that's what he's looking at, is that I can go into a situation, improve it, and maybe get a team over the hump. I think that's his thought process. John 908 says, Cousins for our second pick. They're not going to give Kirk Cousins up for a second round pick. If they're giving Kirk Cousins up, it's going to take 2 number 1s. because they're going to put the franchise tag on him. And in order to get a guy with the franchise tag on him, you're going to have to give up 2 ones. So that's not happening. Black Al Bundy says, it seems to me AP is two-faced. One minute he wants to retire at Vike, the next he's shouting out landing destination, shaking my head. Hashtag, get a champ. He says, get your mind right. He says, get your mind right, AP. And then it says, hashtag, ball hard. I've heard the same thing. You know, he's conflicted at times. But I think he sees the writing on the wall. I think he understands that the Vikings may be ready to move on from him after not having him all last year. I think they might feel like, okay, we don't need him. And I think he understands that they may be in that position with him. And so because of that, I think he's trying to go ahead and plant some seeds right now. Archangel says, well, everyone deserves a second chance. As much as I don't really care for Johnny Football, so he believes that Johnny Football should get another shot. We'll see if that does happen or not. John Niner 8 says, who's the worst owner in football? Jed York, Jerry Jones, or Daniel Snyder? Jerry Jones and Dan Snyder, you say what you want about them. They're not the worst owners in football. Jerry Jones is the most meddlesome. Daniel Snyder, I think once upon a time was. I don't even think he's as bad as people perceive him to be anymore. I think he's staying out of affairs. But he can be messy at times too. But Jed York, by far and away, and I don't even know if Jed York is necessarily the owner, but he's right up in that conglomerate. He's high up the food chain. He's horrible, though. We already know about Jed York. He's like the vice president. You know, he's terrible. He's horrible. He needs to go. But that's another discussion for another day. Archangel says, let the truth be known. NFL players should be the highest paid players out of the MLB, NFL, and NBA. I mean, the game is much more physical, and they're not even close. NBA and Major League Baseball players kill it. Kill it. I mean, if you can throw a baseball 96 miles an hour and you throw left-handed, man, you will make a ton of money. I mean, baseball players kill it. I mean, Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid from the Mets as we speak. I think he's still getting paid. I think he's going to get a check from them for $1 million until like 2025. Either that or he just got his last one in 2015. One or the other. It's one of those years that ends in a 5 or 2020. Like, baseball players make bank. Basketball players, I mean, everybody was complaining about the basketball free agency last offseason because obscure guys were getting like $50 million. And the beauty of baseball and basketball, their money is fully guaranteed. Unlike football, again. And I get it. I understand why football isn't fully guaranteed. And I understand why these guys don't get paid as much. There's 53 players on an NFL roster. They have to split the pie. More than in basketball where there's only 15 guys on an active roster. And really 12 of those guys are really getting paid. And of the 12 guys, only like 5 of them are really getting paid real money. And then in baseball, same deal. I mean, your roster consists of like 25 guys. You know, you don't have to pay as many players. So, yeah. Last comment here. Andrew Kim is going to clean it up. It says, Orr said he would have tried to come back if the doctors told him he had a chance to pass a physical, had his hand tied, and heard that the injury affects less than 1% of the population. He also says, I'm still not into the Peppers pick. Other needs, but Ravens fans telling me that they want him as a pass rusher or a corner. Shaking my head, he's not that versatile. I think people are going to find out, whether it be the combine, if he decides to even do it, his pro day, that Jabril Peppers is an average athlete. I don't think he's that fast. I don't think he's that great of an athlete. I don't think he's all of that. I don't. I think Jabril Peppers is an average athlete at best. But I will say this. I've been wrong before about guys like him. He reminds me a lot of Darrelle Revis. But Revis wasn't playing 18 different positions. He was playing corner, and he was a punt returner. I thought Darrelle Revis was so slow in college at Pitt. I was like, this guy's running back punts. He's not even fast. That's that big. I think back then it was still the Big East. He might have been playing in, and if it wasn't, he was in the ACC. And I'm like, this guy's not even that good. Turned out to be one of the best corners we've seen over the last 12 years. So I was wrong. I've been wrong before, but Peppers doesn't really have a position. He doesn't have the same size as Revis did. I just look at him and I see. Look, the whole athlete thing doesn't work in the NFL. Like, you don't come in the NFL and classify yourself as an athlete, okay? You got to have a position. And I think he's a man without a position right now, and I don't think he excels at any of those positions. And I don't think he's that great of an athlete, but we're going to find this stuff out. That's what this whole process is about. And I can't wait, because I think he's one of those guys that is an overhyped prospect. And I think it would not shock me if he's one of these guys that we talk about. We see it every year. One of these guys that we talk about ad nauseum as a first-round pick. And come draft day, his ass doesn't get picked in the first day. Doesn't get picked in the second day. We've seen it happen before. We see it happen all the time. He wouldn't shock me if he's that guy this year. But in any event, that's going to do it for me. Thank all of you guys for watching and commenting. We're going to have more of these discussions, more of these different rumor mill videos coming your way. As the topics keep coming, I'll jot them down and we'll discuss. Big football games coming up. I dropped my video. So check that out so you know my predictions, how I feel about the 2 Sunday games. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. This has been the In the Lab Room Rumor Mill. I will see you guys on Sunday. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night.